Welcome to the Momentum Lifestyle Project podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Ruse, and here at Momentum, we aim to challenge and champion committed men who are ready to take charge of their lives by mastering their mind, optimizing physical potential, and unlocking their power to find their mission. Whilst our work is predominantly with men, we hope that this podcast will provide value to all who choose to listen. So without further ado, let's jump in. Trent Dennis-Lane is a retired AFL footballer, having played for the Sydney Swans and St Kilda Football Club. He is now an aspiring coach and works really hard in youth development. We had a great chat. We touched on a couple different things and mainly delved deep into the current state of leadership in the world. As always, if you enjoyed today's podcast, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, share and tag us on Instagram at The Momentum Lifestyle. Any and all support is greatly appreciated. Thank you and enjoy. Welcome, international streaming sensation Trent Dennis-Lane.
G'day, mate. How are you?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Yeah, it's just you got used a lot of poetic license with that introduction there.
Yeah,
I think I average maybe like 2 or 3 viewers every time I jump on.
Mate, after this podcast, you might get 5 or 6.
Yeah, Twitch TV /8 gaming.
There we go. We're a minute in and we're already doing shout outs. I love it. I love it. Mate, how's life treating you at the moment? You guys just came out of the 5-day snap lockdown in Victoria. How you doing?
Yeah, going all right, mate. I think we're sort of, in some respects, I'm not sure how good this is, but we're prepared and conditioned to flex in and out of these lockdowns, which is, that's a very sort of big answer to throw out straight away. But, like workplaces and where I work, we were able to, quickly sort of scramble and shuffle things around. So it didn't affect me too much, which is good from a selfish point of view, but still, still hits a few people for 6 that are, that live that day-to-day sort of lifestyle. So yeah, it was the frustrating thing was the weather was perfect and you're only allowed outside for an hour a day or whatever it was. And, but got through unscathed, mate. Just retreated to my little gaming room for a little bit longer than I usually would. And, we actually bought a dog. We bought a dog
nice.
in the little lockdown. So he gets delivered next week,
breed?
which is Labrador / Border Collie.
Nice.
So he's a little black thing and he's got like a white tie on.
Oh, awesome.
Cute as fuck.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. I think a few people got dogs, or I think by now there's a few babies popping out now. So I've seen a lot of kids.
I'm trying to avoid the lockdown baby, so I'll buy a dog instead.
Get the dog instead. That'll offset the other one. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You bring up a good point around the human resilience, and I think it's a big part of what's happened over the last 12 months that I've really noticed in probably putting up with, at least in Australia. In America, the attitude's very different to lockdown, etc. And as you can, tell by the news and how polarizing it is over here. But definitely in Australia, it's that resilience piece that I see come out that almost I kind of put my tinfoil hat on at times. And so it allows us to put up with too much than we actually should have to. And you being in Victoria, and not to start the podcast off overly political, but that resilience allows us to go, well, we'll be okay. Let's have faith that the politicians or whoever's in charge do the right thing. And, with a 5-day snap lockdown with, I think it was 13 cases in Victoria, the resilience keeps you going, as you said, but it also, it's scary, negative that you can put up with so much and keep going. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. And it's almost like, you read the news or you hear Victoria or Melbourne's there's an outbreak or there's a three cases. And yes, I agree that the virus is dangerous and spreads fast and all that stuff. my girlfriend's actually, she's public health worker, so she's a physio, so she's been in the hospitals, and I understand all that sort of stuff. But the thing that I suppose makes me think a little bit more is we're just so, yes, we are resilient, but we're really quick to just accept what they're saying, and we just move into this complete state of like fear and letting other people control us, and you know, to some extent our freedom of choice gets taken away, and and we've had some pretty heated discussions in the household around the virus and the vaccine, and just the reaction to minimal cases and all that sort of stuff. But it's just that chain effect of, you know, they announce that there's a couple of cases of coronavirus, and then everyone's just like, you know, goes into panic mode. And but we've proven that we can actually get through it if we just take a little bit of a deep breath and chill out. But exactly, it's a interesting psychological landscape.
It is, and I think when you take a step back and look at what fear does to the human body on a physiological level, it makes you less healthy, and it puts you in a stressful state, and you're more susceptible to diseases. You're more susceptible to the cold, to COVID. So you're more susceptible the more scared you are. And it was funny. I was having dinner just the other night with a couple friends, and 2, 3, 4 of us said, I've actually probably been the healthiest I've been over the last 12 months in terms of, usually every year I'll get a cold around, you know, June, July in Melbourne when it starts to get cold. And I've been perfectly fine this entire year. And for me, my attitude throughout this whole thing has been be safe, look after myself, stick to my really healthy routines. And I probably put more of an emphasis on my healthy routines throughout this whole year. And so as a result, I was like looking back and I was like, geez, I haven't been sick once this year. But I think a big thing for me that I see a lot of people, and again, when you look at all the research on what fear does, I think when people start to buy into it, then you're way more likely to then go and attract it and then go and get it.
And, you know, when you talk about manifesting stuff, doesn't understand the negative. So it's like, I hope I don't get coronavirus. I hope I don't get coronavirus. You're actually, you're bringing that.
Doesn't understand the negative, right? So all your subconscious mind is, I hope I get coronavirus. That's all you. So you tell yourself that over and over and again, and bang, you're gonna eventually bring in something that's not going to be healthy.
Exactly.
So exactly. It's been
interesting, the reaction when, you know, that's obviously not to stereotype too much, but it affects the rich upper class, predominantly, you know, well-off people, and there's like, oh, hang on a second, we're threatened here. So let's use our money, our influence, our power to control the response. It's just like, whoa. And I'm not like I wouldn't say I'm, you know, I'd be like a 1 out of 10 conspiracy theorist. But there's always, you know, there's truth to what you're hearing from mainstream media. There's truth to what you're hearing from the conspiracy theorists, but they're just so heavy one side or so heavy the other side that it's just obvious that the truth is somewhere in the middle. Absolutely. It's, well, you know what I mean? Like the old, there's 3 sides to every story. Here's hers and the truth.
Exactly. Right.
It's just, it's interesting. Like, you know, you compare it to like hunger or famine. Like we've got the cure for that. Here's have some money, have food, but because it doesn't affect the rich and powerful,
absolutely.
They just, you know, we'll just let that one go through to the keeper.
Exactly right. It's out of sight, out of mind, and as soon as it becomes insight in mind, I think I agree with everything you just said there. The influence and the power used to then control the narrative, and you know, it's I can't remember who I was speaking to, but something around when people are questioning science specific to COVID, right? So we're allowed to question the science in every other area because that is the essence of science. Is you go out, you have a hypothesis, you go, you test, you question, peer-reviewed studies, so people are coming in and then questioning your findings again, and that's literally the basis form of science, is questioning science, right? But in a COVID world, when we're talking about COVID, it's like, here's some science that we've managed to gather over now a maximum of 12 months.
Yeah, and they call that rigorous testing.
And they're like, accept it. It's like, isn't science about questioning it and like, hey, is this accurate? Is this right? Is it not? I'm happy for it to be accurate, but I'm not happy when they don't allow a conversation, or they don't allow, all the censorship that we've seen over the last 12 months on big tech and social media, and a bunch of doctors and very, highly reputable sources coming out and saying, hey, there's more to this. And they get shut down, and it's like, don't question the science. It's like, what about their science? Can we bring their science in and formulate a better understanding of what's going on, so that we can, move forward safely? But it's been a interesting time the last 12 months from a human psychology point of view. What happens, with the toilet paper in Melbourne, and I think in America even, like how bang, everyone goes out and gets toilet paper, and we completely forget about coming together. I know in Australia, we had the bushfires at the start of the year, and everyone was coming together. Let's help everyone out. Mateship this, mateship that. Fast forward 3-4 months later, we're punching.
It was the polar opposite
for toilet paper, and it's like, you got 50 rolls at home. Relax.
Yeah, it's crazy what the messages, or the whatever you want to call it. It's a form of propaganda. I was back in Perth catching up with the family over Christmas, and we were the 21st of December was the retrospective lockdown day when the WA Premier just closed the borders off. So I'd been in Perth for 10 days at that stage, caught up with both sides of the family on Christmas, seen probably close to 250 people, because I'm pretty popular, as you know.
Yeah, you are. Yep.
But so we're sitting at the golf course having lunch after a hit with my brother and my stepdad, and all Victorians that flew in on the 21st or after have to go into retrospective lockdown. And I was like, okay, well, you start to read the policy and the procedure around it, and I could chat for the whole hour around how inconsistent all their policies and stuff are. But we're just like, we'll get on top of this. We'll go get a COVID test, get it come back negative, and hopefully we'll be able to just leave and get home. Yep. Go to present for a test. We're not allowed to get tested until the next day. So it's like, one, that doesn't make sense. Yep. Just because I'm not symptomatic, but I have to get an 11-day test. I was allowed to isolate at my family home, and they were allowed to carry on.
They're allowed to leave, but you have to
doing exactly what they were doing. And I was like, if this virus is what they say it is, if I've got it, you've got it. And then got our test results back, came back negative. Yeah. And we still had to obviously be in quarantine and isolate. And my dad, because I didn't get to see him on New Year's Day, we usually go to the Perth Cup and the races. I think it was the 2nd, and we were flying out in the morning of the 3rd, and he came over to just, say g'day and goodbye. And he stood 15 meters away from me. I just sat on the front step, and he stood on the road. And I was like, I saw you 4 days ago. We were having a few beers.
Hugging, probably.
Like in each other's grill pretty much.
Yeah.
I've got a negative COVID test.
Yeah.
I was like, if I had it, you'd have it. Like,
exactly.
Why are you standing 20 meters away? I was like having a shout, having a normal conversation. It's like, what is going on? It's bizarre.
Bizarre, mate. Bizarre. It's, as I said, it's such a great insight into human psychology when stresses are involved. I think I was speaking, again, having a conversation the other day with mate, just going, it's so easy to uphold good values when things are going well, right? Hey man, be positive. When things are going well in my life, it's easy for me to tell you, hey, stay positive. But when I get kicked to the ground or something doesn't go the way I plan, am I still telling myself, okay, stay positive. There's a lesson in this. what can I do? Oftentimes, and what we've seen so often over the last 12 months is when the stresses hit, all hell breaks loose. People lose sight of their values. They don't walk their walk. You know, we look at leaders to lead and do that in a healthy, positive way. And they, like the state of
there's a lack of leadership
just across the board everywhere. Like I'm in America right now, as I said, no leaders. I look in Australia, no leaders. I look overseas, just no leaders anyway. I just got off the phone with a mate in the UK, no leaders, right? And when we talk about leadership, and you know this so well, being at one of the most successful football clubs over the last 20 years at the Sydney Swans from 2010 to 2012. I mean, how different does the leadership look like within a football club when you had, I think you had Brett Kirk at 2010. I think he retired that year. You had some average coach that retired in 2010 by the name of Paul Roos. And then John Longmire stepped in. So you had these really great leaders at your football club. And I'm sure St Kilda were similar as well, where I think you played. Did you play under Nick Rewalt? I'm not sure when he retired. You would have played under Nick Rewalt, another great leader. And then you contrast that with leadership in politics or in business. Now that you're in business, I know you work for a great company under Scotty Waters. But how do you view, I guess, the leadership problem or the leadership dilemma that we have in the greater world, and what can we take from sporting cultures and sporting teams that are doing it so well?
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of question or that you propose. My thoughts on I look at things always on both sides of the coin. Always, I think to have good awareness, you need to understand both the positive and the negative. And my view on leadership is it's essentially influence. So if you have some form of title or you're in a position in a footy club, whether you're the coach or the captain, you have influence. And then what you actually do with that influence is leadership, because culture and behavior it's contagious. As we all know, you're a product of your environment. What you sort of, unless you really buck the trend, which is, rare, you sort of believe the same things your parents believe. It all gets sort of ingrained, and that influence transfers and shapes your value, shapes your behavior. So it's really whoever is in those pivotal positions, like we underestimate putting people in management positions. Because they go around, they're just nose to the grindstone, doing their everyday thing. Because they're executing that role really, really well, they get a promotion and they go, okay, you can now manage this team. They have no idea how to manage that team. And then there's that lack of shit, I don't know what I'm doing. They go, and where do you go to under pressure? You go back to your default mode. And if you don't have those good values, those good habits, to then transfer your influence in a positive way, you influence in a negative way. And then that's how that negative culture starts to brew and develop. And over time, it's sometimes, you know how hard it is to change one little habit with just yourself. And you're trying to do that in a group environment. It's like, sometimes you feel like you're pushing shit uphill. So it's for me, the leadership dilemma comes from, we're just putting people into these roles, whether it be a politician, whether it be a captain, talk about leadership groups at footy clubs, all that sort of stuff. And it's obviously a weight of numbers thing. So like the more people you have doing it, the better off you're going to be at executing whatever that influence is. But it works both ways, as I was saying. So like really easy to do it positive with the right people. But also extremely easy to do it like negatively influence. And because that is still a form of, like, you're still leading. You just, in our opinions, you're leading them down the wrong path or, encouraging wrong behaviors.
Yeah. There was a really good quote I read just yesterday. It was, try to do your best in a world where it is so easy to do your worst. And it hit home so hard for me. I was like, man, that is so true. It is, we've fallen into a society that excuses such poor behavior on such a consistent basis that it's so easy now to fall into that poor behavior, no matter where we are, and no matter where you are, whether you're in a sporting club, at a business, in your private life, in your social life, right? It's so easy to fall into just the bad behaviors that you really do need to strive hard to cement good habits for starters, but then also good behaviors, and then get yourself into a leadership role. If that's something you want to do, I think, as you touched on, there needs to be a shift in how businesses run, where it's no longer a promotion based purely on performance. You've almost got two different pathways within the business. Okay, you're amazing at sales, but you're a bit of a prick. So we're going to send you this way, where we're going to work on your behaviors, but you know what? You can still get promotions where we just put you in higher sales roles. And then you've got someone else who maybe doesn't sell as much, but every day he's the first one in the door. He's getting to know everyone in the business. He's checking in on people, and you go, oh, wow, you would be a great leader. Your sales aren't that great, but you know what? We're going to put you in a management role to let you manage the sales people, right? And I think that's where businesses need to start going. And we see it. The example that I use is real estate, because I know the real estate industry quite well. And you promote these people based off of their performances as agents, and they eventually become a director. But when they become directors, they're still agents, and they're still out there selling houses, and they're still, the bad ones are poaching housing listings off of their subordinates or their employees. And it's like, are you a director or are you a real estate agent? Because you can't be both.
Yeah.
So
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, you're either managing the business and you're building your team and you're building up whatever the brand is that you've bought into, or you're trying to build your own bank through sales. And that's where I see it, using extremes is obviously the best way to kind of convey this message. I see it as an extreme in the real estate industry where, there's very few agents that have good reputation because of that fact that it's a, hey, come in, we're a team in here. But also you work, majorly off of commission, right? Good luck. Yeah. And you're like, oh, and I'm also fighting my boss for listings. How am I?
Well, that's the issue with most businesses is that, for example, your sales guy, they're on the bottom tier of cash. You get a promotion, you get more money.
Yeah.
So they're climbing up. And when I finished footy, I went into sales for a little while, and it was like the competitiveness of it appealed to me for a while, but just like the dog eat dog, like I've got to do everything I can to get ahead, like that whole sort of belief system surrounding that industry. I was just like, shit.
Yeah.
Like I hate lies. I hate telling lies. I hate being lied to. Like honesty is one of my, like, I'll just tell you, straight up. If if I think you're full of shit, I'll tell you you're full of shit. Yeah. And I'd hope that people would do the same for me. But then like you're in that environment and you're twisting truths and bending truths, and you're spending a lot of time in this gray area. And I kind of like to operate in a little bit more, black or white type sort of things with my decisions. And it's just like, I can understand looking back now how easy it is for people to just get lost in that gray area. And they're like, well, they start to justify it, or like, well, I need to do this and say this and behave this way to get X, Y, and Z. And it's usually the new car or the promotion or the more money or for that societal status. And I sit back, I go, why did I even put any energy into that? Looking back now, it's just like, I'd rather get paid half the amount of what I was getting paid and do stuff that I love, that doesn't actually feel like I'm working.
Absolutely. And that's what footy clubs do so well, is they get players to buy into the club. They get people to buy into, hey, we're here to win football games, right? And I don't think enough businesses have those conversations of, well, what are we actually here to do? Okay, we're here to sell people their dream homes, right? To use the real estate example again. Okay, let's go out there and do that. And we're going to do that as a team, and we're going to all buy into the business, and we're going to, work off of a team commission percentage, or whatever the case may be. But there's no real buy-in in especially sales-driven sales-driven businesses, as you stated. And it's what, as I said, that really good football clubs do really well, is and the model shifted, especially in leadership over the last 10, 15 years, where the best player no longer is the captain. It's the captain is the one who upholds the values
100%
of the club.
Like a Jaron Geary at St Kilda is the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
So like, I remember my time at St Kilda, obviously quite vividly. It was sort of, a lot of sort of turning point sort of moments in my life, with dealing with injuries to getting delisted and all that sort of stuff. And, I started to grow up a little bit, so to speak. Starting to become more aware of what was sort of happening around me and my interactions with everyone, and understanding people's personalities and what drives people and all that sort of stuff. And you talk about culture and leadership. And the contrast between Sydney and St Kilda was massive. Massive. And it was so long-standing. Like you look at Sydney, been through shit times through the 80s, early 90s, when they, made the move up. But appointed the right people at the right time. Wasn't necessarily the best but they instilled that, the throwaway line, they instilled that Bloods culture. And that's now everlasting, because they, and they weren't the best players. There was just, they're your solid 7 out of 10s. You know what you're going to get from them, though. And then you go down to, and there's other reasons why I reckon it works so well up in Sydney. Like, interstate, majority of the boys are, leaving their family, so they naturally bond together more like brothers, instead of having, in Melbourne, you've got your own friendship networks that footy, I felt at St Kilda was more of a job than it was at Sydney, if that makes any sense. It was all like, it was more like clock in, clock out. Like, it was like work, like I'm going to work.
And it was more like a family up in Sydney, would you say? Or
yes, I would. And and like, to rewind to something what you said earlier around, like, like witnessing leadership. Like Nick Rewald, I think in the last, probably once I left, apparently started to really develop his leadership in terms of he became more aware of his influence on others, because he was very emotionally reactive as a leader. Like, if you didn't kick him the ball, it was like, you know what I mean? Like, they were never able to, they were never able to develop another key forward around him. And this is no, like, great player, like one of the best players we've ever seen, hardest working, all that sort of stuff. But that's that. He got, I reckon he got it really late, in my opinion, and started to develop. But I remember 2014, we did our leadership vote, and I didn't have any of their leaders in my votes, and it probably, it like probably was the writing on the wall for me. It's like, well, okay, now that group, they know that I don't rate their leadership. It's like, and just because I was being honest with myself with that voting system, that creates that trust issue, because they don't trust that I don't trust them.
Yeah.
And I didn't trust them. So it's just like, fuck, like, where do you go from here? I'm in the last year of my contract. So I was voting for like your Jaron Gearys and that next wave of leadership that was coming through, like your Dylan Robertons and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, these guys are the ones that are having the positive influence. Those other guys, they're just having influence. And it was, it was, to this day, it's still, I still remember it. I was sitting there and like we'd go around and you'd have to stand up and 5 votes to rah, rah, rah. And you see it happen, like the young kid that knows nothing because they're ignorantly, like they've just walked in the door.
Yeah, they don't know who to vote for.
They don't know who to vote for. And it's like 5 votes, Nick Roywalt, 4 votes, Jay Montagna.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, like you don't actually know that.
Yeah. And so did you find that when you came across to St Kilda that because you'd come from such a successful football club with a nationally renowned culture, as you said, the Bloods, if you mention the Bloods to any AFL fan, they know exactly who you're talking about. They're talking about the Sydney Swans, right? Was there any sort of consultation to you, like, hey, mate, how, you've just come from, I think you left at the end of 2012, so you've just come off of a premiership winning football side with the greatest culture in Australia right now. Hey, can you tell me how they set that up? Or was it a case of because you'd gotten traded, there was little consultation, or maybe because you'd had injuries, there was little consultation to you?
I remember there was a lot of like more of the footballing side of things that they wanted to know.
Yeah. Football tactics.
Like, like what are their structures? What are their like the real nuts and bolts of the game plan?
Yeah.
And I was a little bit younger, a little bit dumber, didn't know as much, and I would have. I think if you want to know what you need to know from the Swans, it's X, Y, and Z, and it wouldn't have been. This is where they're hitting it to at a boundary throw in. This is it wouldn't be what they're doing from a kick out or kick in.
Yeah.
It's like I think back now, it's like the goal that I missed in probably passing on was all that behavioural side of things. And Scotty Waters, who got sacked in my first year, who's one of my mentors, got his own strengths and weaknesses and stuff like that. But he started to shake the tree a little bit or rock the boat, so to speak, in terms of trying to almost like hit reset on St Kilda's culture. And it tipped him out. Yeah. Tipped him out straight away. There was a meeting I remember at the end of 2013, a couple of weeks before he got the arse. And he gave the St Kilda leaders like an all-time
fake.
Yeah, and not the spray, but it was like, boys, you aren't leaders. And I was sitting there going, fuck, you know what? Like, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, I agree. And there is no way you would be having that conversation with your Goodsy, your Ryan O'Keefe, your Jared McVeigh's, like, that just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Because it was there was a massive contrast, and it comes back to that the group of players that had the power to influence based on how good they were as players, got put into leadership roles, and influenced probably, well, the proof's in the pudding that they weren't able to achieve the ultimate success. And in my opinion, I reckon that's one of the main reasons.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's starting to. It's starting.
Agreed. It is, and
people are understanding the importance of it.
Yeah.
But without proper, without going to people who've had the success in those areas and then go, hey, teach me how to do this. If you try to do it on your own, it's either going to take you way too long to get it right, or you're never going to get it right. And you now see companies with their own, like head of culture within like their own business.
Yeah.
It's like have a head of culture. It's like, isn't that the CEO? Isn't the CEO the head of culture? Like he's the CEO. You need to bring on, if you want to work on your culture, bring on an outside team that specializes in building culture, that's got runs on the board, that can come in and go, okay, mate, it actually starts with you. It starts with you're the head of culture right now. You can't offset that to someone else to manage the culture of the team. It'd be like the Prime Minister of Australia appointing a head of how Australians should act or whatever. It's like that doesn't make sense. Like everyone looks at the minister on, okay, what's acceptable, what's not, right? You don't outsource your main role to someone else. It's an odd...
they want everything.
Yeah.
They want the rewards of, having that title or that position, whether that's, more money, more influence, whatever it is. But then when things aren't going that well, and this is generalizing a fair bit, but there is just such a lack of, I don't know what the word is. Maybe it's like accountability or taking responsibility for, well, it's okay. Well, you want that position. This is what comes with it.
Yeah.
Like there's, I flash back to, like a Dan Andrews in his media conferences, and it's like, we've discussed, he's getting advice from this, and this. It's just, yeah, that's fine. But he's the premier. He signs off on it.
Yeah.
Like, Dan, just like take some ownership, and like you'd have so, like, whether you get it right, get it wrong, if you got some conviction with your decisions, and take some accountability and responsibility for the outcomes of those decisions, you'll get respect.
Yeah.
But he's, before we went into that little 5-day lockdown a week or so ago, he was like, now this is just the advice, this is that. And it's like, dude, you're the one that everyone's sort of looking to here to
and then he gets
navigate it.
He gets nominated for a leadership award. And it's like, what an absolute joke. What an absolute joke. Like he's been the worst leader in Australia over the last 12 months, hands down, and he gets nominated for a leadership award. So you've got people that fundamentally lack an understanding of what leadership is. And for me, the number one thing is what you just said there. If I'm a leader, everything falls on my shoulders. I've done well. I fucked up, and that's what a leader is. It's not a case of, oh yeah, but this and that and him and her and not me, not you. It's like, no. You're a leader. You're in charge of the state of Victoria. That means you take ownership of everything, right? And I'm so fortunate that I had Paul, my old man being my old man, where he just, like, for me, and I'm sure for you, as we're sitting here talking, that's common sense. Like, that's not a debatable, a debatable thing. Where I had a conversation the other day with someone, and you're like, they're talking about, well, you could make an argument that he's been a good leader because this is, a pandemic and he's managed to get through. I'm like, mate, I'm just biting my tongue, like my tongue's bleeding. I'm like, you've got no idea what leadership, like what good leadership is. If you think he's done a good job over the last 12 months, you just have an uneducated opinion on what leadership actually is, or what good leadership is. And when I think back to all the great leaders that I've managed to surround myself by, they all take ownership as the baseline, as like the non-negotiable. I'm the head. A good coach or a good captain, when they hit the press conference, they're taking the responsibility. They're saying it's a team effort. There might be one player that missed a goal in the last 30 seconds, but a good leader understands that a game is won over the course of 120 minutes, right? And so if someone misses a goal in the first 2 minutes of the game, we kind of forget about that. But player misses at the end, we all want to blame. But a good leader comes in and he goes, no, it's team effort. We all went out there, we all played. And similarly in a business, business is doing well. Hey, It's on me. I haven't set a good culture. I haven't set good standards. I'm doing something wrong here because that's why the business is failing. It's not a case of you then look at your factory employees and go, oh, well, they must be packaging the boxes wrong, and that's why our profits are low. It's like, no.
That's
not how leadership works. And I think you said it just before, where people want the bells and whistles with the job, and they don't want the tough conversations. They don't want
they want the cherry on top, don't they?
Yeah, they don't want the pressure that comes with it, and they try to outsource all those responsibilities. And I think you can see it all the way down in our society, where we want the rights and we want no responsibility. Give me all the rights in the world, give me all the freedoms, but I don't want any responsibilities.
Yeah. I think it also comes down to, like, societally, we're scared to stuff up. We're scared to make mistakes. And then, that drives that fear-based mindset. And it's just on it goes and on it goes. It's like, if there's one thing that I've learned in life, it's be prepared to stuff up. Be prepared to make a fool out of yourself. Be prepared to make a mistake.
Yep, absolutely.
The positive side of that is, whatever you want to call it, risk-taking, bravery, courage. That's where all the good shit is.
Yeah, exactly.
We're so risk adverse. We're so comfortable. We're so scared to actually step into a little bit of I suppose it's a little bit of the unknown.
Yeah.
We just want to do what we know, what we're comfortable with, and we think that's happy. And it's like, no. And all the good leaders are, as you said, they're willing to step out and they're, put their balls on the line, so to speak.
Yeah.
In a footy sense, like,
yeah, exactly.
Head on the chopping block. They're ready for it to.
Well, you have to. Every player goes out and goes, well, there's a 50% chance you lose today, but I'm going out anyway and I'm trying my best. And I always talk about sport being the greatest teacher to any person. It just teaches you so much about life. And, one of my favorite interviews on what you're saying there is actually by Elon Musk, and he's getting interviewed for 60 minutes or something. And this is when SpaceX just started, or it was a couple of years in, and he had all the, I'm going to get the wrong Armstrong here, that the Armstrong that went to the moon.
Yeah,
Neil, not Lance, not the cyclist. And all these astronauts coming out and saying how stupid it was, because at that stage he was the first privatized space company, and he's being interviewed and he's close to tears talking about how much it sucks that his idols are talking so poorly about his business, and how much hate and doubt got thrown his way. And I think the interview would have been, almost 10 years ago now, back in 2009. And now he's the world's richest man, and his SpaceX company has done so well. But if he didn't have that ability to step out and put a massive target on his back and go, I'm prepared to fail, and I'm taking full responsibility of my business and where it goes, you end up living just a nothing life. Like, I think there's a Stoic quote where it's like, you're afraid of dying, but how are you living any differently to as if you were dead? And it's many people are afraid of death, afraid of failure. It's like, man, but your life is it worth living? Like, with what you're doing right now, you wake up, you take no risks, you're not stepping out of your comfort zone, and then you go to sleep every night. So what's the benefit of that? Like,
how's that fun? Like, life's got to be fun. Like, if you're not having, and it's very basic philosophy, but I don't do anything that I don't enjoy anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I've made a conscious decision around that. And it's like, if something isn't bringing me enjoyment, I cast that aside. Because it's like, well, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. I've only got one go at this.
Yeah.
I love having fun, so I want to have as much fun as possible.
Yeah.
So if that's coaching a group of kids, or doing some school programs with the charity I work for, having a kick of the footy, playing some video games, like whatever that looks like for me. And obviously
that's because
different for each.
You've had that internal dialogue where you've gone, what's my highest value? My highest value right now, or one of them, is enjoyment and fun. okay, cool. I can align my life with that goal of fun or enjoyment. Whereas I coach young men, and the biggest thing the biggest shift I see is when we go over values and behaviors, because they're lost. They don't know what they want to do, blah, blah, blah. You've got so many external sources now telling you what you should be doing. But when you get clear on, okay, I want to have fun and I want to, enjoy my life. The pressures of going out and making $1 million a year fade into the background, because you're like, well, that's not actually what you said in the sales role. My value is not to drive a Ferrari and make $1 million a year and be super successful and then not be able to sleep at night. My value is to live within my integrity. So it makes your role as a human being so much easier, because you go, well, now I know what who I want to be. Now I can go and align my actions underneath the who, or underneath the purpose or the value. And so many people walk around, so confused, because they haven't gone, well, actually, why am I waking up at 6 a.m., going to work at 7, working till 9, and then going home and I'm fucking miserable, but I'm making $1 million a year? It's because is that actually what you want? Or is that what somebody told you that you should be striving for? And so you have the internal dialogue and you're like, oh, actually, this isn't what I want. I'd much rather just go and work in my local cafe and have the flexibility to travel for a couple of years. It's like, well, go and do that then, mate. Like,
yeah.
Like, you don't have to show up as King Dingaling and, make heaps of money and drive all the fancy cars, etc. And I think the values, there's a great book by Johan Hari called Lost Connections, and he talks about the 9 reasons why we're depressed and anxious. And one of them is a disconnection from good values, and how society teaches us so many junk values. My work with men and your work with boys and girls in schools, I'm sure you see it all the time, where what they're saying back to us is like, holy shit, is that what we're teaching our kids? Like, far out. And it's why I love the work that, you're doing at Life Changers. And I'd really like you to tell us more about the work that you do and tell us more about, what is Life Changers? How did you transition from football to this role that you're in now, and how have you found it, stepping out of football and into this role that you do enjoy post the sales role that you didn't like?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. So starts with probably at the essence of what Life Changer is. That is just positive role models for the next generation in communities, and trying to surround them with positive influences, because we know how many different things, whether it be, bad parental values to social media to everything that is just driving society in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Especially through that sort of teenage years. And the stats reflect it. Like, youth suicide's the biggest killer of Australian youth. There's, you take any classroom, there'll be a kid with a gambling problem. There'll be a kid that, has a substance abuse problem, from that sort of 10 to 18 years of age, or, they sniff inhalants, or, they're anxious, or they're depressed, or they've got a mental health disorder. And it's like, okay, for me, I don't, and I've got a younger brother and sister, well, half brother, half sister from my mum's second marriage, and just a little bit of timing and opportunity, sort of all married up. So they were sort of around in that hot zone, that 14 to 16, and they're about, 18 to 20 now. So, been with Life Changer for that 4 or so years now. But it starts with that positive role model, or that mentor. And throughout my life, Scott Waters was my under 19s coach. We then went our separate ways. We reconnected at St Kilda. We then went our separate ways. I ended up working for him in one of his little businesses that he was a director for. And then we went our separate ways again. And we always kept in touch. But he's like, "Oh, what are you doing now?" And it's just like, "Oh, well, I've just bought my own, or just got an ABN. I'm doing some youth footy mentoring, but keeping it very much, doing more than just footy skills. Like I want to develop their, raise their awareness around their own values and their goals and all that sort of stuff. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was something that was just sort of just my own internal feeling was to go down that path. So then I took what I wanted to do with that to a more holistic point of view with Life Changer. So it's a preemptive program, which we think, a lot of stuff out there is the band-aid effect to things. So here's the problem's arisen. What are we going to do about it?
Yes.
Whereas slap a band-aid on it. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But so we're of the opinion that, life is full of challenges. Let's get prepped. Let's raise our own self-awareness, and everything we do is self-awareness underpinned. And we base our program around 5 key areas, which is your health, which is your physical and mental health, your life skills, yourself, your own self-awareness, your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And we definitely dive into the negative state of mind a little bit, and then strategies to like what strategies work for you, or what does your, when you're negative, what does that look like for you? Because, for example, yours would be different to mine. Like you might become, you might be an external, all that sort of stuff to displays when you're not going so well. So you might like lash out or cry, but I might be the one that withdraws to my gaming room and, doesn't speak to, and like self-isolates a little bit, which can, obviously human beings love connection and all that sort of stuff. Then there's purpose, what lights us up, our passions. And then, in my opinion, probably the most important one is that connection piece, which we call tribe. How do we identify what a good relationship is, and then we sort of spend some time, analyzing the relationships that we have in our lives, and to essentially be the best version of yourself. And we believe that everyone's got innately inside of us, we've got the capabilities to do that. And our program's called Awaken the Hero. So,
love that.
Speaks to that, that inner hero that might be, he or she is there, but they just might be having a little nap, or, they're lying dormant, but we've got all the stuff and we're in control of activating that inner hero. So, it's essentially what we do is we try bring that to life. And some kids are absolutely flying. Some kids are on that real pointy end of struggle. But our program's really holistic, and the way we sort of deliver that is, a lot of anecdotal stories, lots of activities, lots of self-discovery, as well as getting in some, those people in their life, whether we're at a surf club, it's getting the coaches to come and go through the program with the kids, helping them, telling that, you get those lived experiences and those little tips, tricks, and little gold nuggets of advice. And it's not rocket science, or, don't have to go to university for 10 years to be able to tell your story. And just surrounding these kids with more positive people. And, say we're running a program with 50 kids and 10 community mentors show up, like without even saying a word, those kids subconsciously go, well, these 10 people have rocked up for us. So their self-worth, like, oh, I'm deemed worthy of this person coming and helping out for a little bit. So there's all those little, I suppose, sub positive effects from the program, as well as just, delivering some pretty poignant content as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so where is society failing kids the most, do you see?
That is a
good one.
That is a doozy of a question. And I kind of don't know where to start. I think it comes back to that accountability and responsibility of the parents. I think this generation of parents, and I am stereotyping a little bit, but there's no there's none of that responsibility of, okay, like for me, if I was to have a kid, and it's why I haven't had one yet, like that is a massive responsibility and commitment. So if I don't feel like I'm in a place where I can then positively influence the next little me, the cycle just will go on, and then their generation will produce another generation which is lacking those key fundamental human skills around how to live your life. And
I talk about that
the cycle just it's
all the time. They have no idea what they're getting themselves into. Like some parents don't. Like I was always astounded by how many parents, and I'm curious as to your experience, would drop their kids off on a Saturday sport and leave, and then come and pick them up. It's like, you don't want to watch your kid play Saturday sport or watch them train. Or I was very fortunate. The dad was taking the 12 a.m. red-eye flight from Perth to get back on a Sunday morning to watch me and my brother play. Like he wasn't in a single game for anything. And you find it's a similar experience where, you'd be looking around going, where are all the parents? Like, where are they?
Well, hey, like you talk to a lot of, and I'm, with all the work you're doing, you talk to a lot of parents, and a lot of the stuff would be like, oh, the kids have got school today. Like, like with the COVID and the homeschooling, like parents were cheering once their kids were back at school because they didn't have to deal with them. And it's like, no, that's it's the wrong mindset to have. If you're wanting to just offload them and handball them off all the time. And then, there's so many other little factors. Like they go off to school, and in my opinion, the schooling system, like you think about everything that we're sort of surrounded with, everything is changing and evolving, whether it be technology, medicine, school is the same as 100 years ago. We're not the same. There's this awesome little I think it's like a little 2-minute on YouTube, and it's like 1900 2000, and it's like the car shows you a picture of the car 100 years ago, and then a car now. It's like got the phone, and then it's like, it's got your Motorola flip phone. And they do all these like 100-year comparisons, and then it shows a classroom, and it's the same. And it's like, that doesn't make sense to me. No. Like we've changed so much. That's just such a.
What would be the thing that if you tomorrow you're the head of education in Australia, what are you?
Head of culture.
Head of culture in Australia with a specialisation in education. What are the first few things that you're looking at changing? Obviously, this is a hypothetical question, so you don't have to have the nuts and bolts, but what are the things that need to change in a classroom environment? Because you've spent, the last 4 years going into schools, running workshops, speaking with thousands of kids now. What is the education system lacking?
I think it's, For me, I think it's too structured. It's over structured. So we're just breeding robots.
Yeah.
Essentially. So there needs to be a little bit of destructuring, a little bit of more space for own creativity and flair. And it's obviously way harder to control and manage because, you know, there's 30 different individuals in a class that will potentially all be wanting to do something different. And I don't have the solution. Yeah. I don't know what that is, but in my opinion, I think it's like we need more time for Dylan Ruse to be Dylan Ruse.
Yeah.
And you know, as a kid from 6 years old to 17 years old, like you grow and develop so much as a person, but we're spending 6 hours a day at school, 7 hours a day at school under this structure.
Yeah.
And it's all just predetermined, pre-subscribed. How do you be you?
Yeah. How do you figure out what you're good at? How do you figure out what you're bad at? How do you go through school if you're not book smart? How do you go through school with a sense of self-worth? Right?
Yeah.
Like you're graded on your memorization skills, which is what school is, right? You go to do an exam, it's how well you can memorize the content over the last 10 weeks. That's something you're not good at. You're going to live the first 18 years of your life thinking that you're an idiot, when in reality, you could be, you could be an amazing painter, or you could be an amazing poet. You could be even great footballers. You know, me and my brother always joke with Dad. We're always like, "Oh, you're an idiot. You didn't go to uni, rah rah." And we joke with him, but he's by far one of the smartest people I've ever met. Like my dad.
Yeah.
And you know, he probably did okay, C's and B's in school, and then dropped out of uni to play football. But he's by far one of the smartest people I know, because he managed to find what he was good at, double down, learn off of everyone around him, which isn't always in a classroom, right? We talk about different learning.
You don't need that signed qualification to say that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think you bring up a good point in terms of reducing structure and something I see, which is so hard for me to see because it's such a complicated issue, but the what's the right word? The amount of medication we put young people on today is so sad for me, because and the big one is ADHD and ADD with young boys. And it's like, you hear some stories and you're like, your son doesn't have ADD or ADHD. Your son is a son who's 6 years old. Like, he's not going to want to sit still, or, you know, this and that. And obviously ADD and ADHD are very real mental illnesses, but the amount of worth we put on basically numbing our kids so that it makes parenting easier. Oh, he's running around in the backyard. He can't sit still. Yeah, he's 6 years old. Let him run around, tire himself out, and then he'll go to bed. Right? Like,
have you driven past a school lately at lunchtime? And
oh mate,
everyone just sits around doing nothing.
Well, you can't run now. You're running in the playground. You know, like the rules that they've put in place.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, I remember, and that's only what, oh Jesus, starting to get a little bit of time ago now, but
getting old,
15 to 20, 15 to 20 years ago, you know, I'm 10 to 15.
Yeah.
Recess, before school, lunch, shooting the basketball, kicking the footy, like dripping in sweat in a Perth summer.
Scab knee.
You know? Yeah. And then finish school, and it was like, where am I going? What am I doing now? Like, whose friend's house can I go to, or who can I get over? Yeah. And we wouldn't even go inside. It'd be out the front playing front yard cricket. We'd be down the park doing something. We'd be riding our bikes everywhere, go for a skateboard.
Yeah.
Like, where's that gone? Like, do we need to give kids more, it's going to sound weird, it's like structured freedom.
Yeah.
So it's like, there is 90 minutes a day at school. It's get put in their curriculum because they're so bloody obsessed with, got to tick it off on the curriculum.
Yeah.
90 minutes, you're outside.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's like a big cage around the school so you can't lose them. But you got 90 minutes. You can go, you can go climb a tree.
Yeah.
You just go do what, go do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Go paint something. Go
do
write
whatever.
some lyrics to a song. Go kick the footy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where because I'm a little bit younger than you, but I remember towards the end of my primary school days, and then a little bit on, and I'd revisit the primary school to see old teachers and such, was the parents pushing for the school to protect the kids. And I see it as, and you see it outside of school too, but parents now are so like frightened of their kids getting hurt. They're so afraid that, oh my God, my boy, my girl, like they're going to get hurt if they do this or that. And it's going to be the worst thing ever. And there's a great psychologist, Jordan Peterson, and he's got a book, and in one of the books, one of the chapters is entitled let the boys ride skateboards, or let the kids play, basically, right? And it's essentially let people go out there and hurt themselves. Let them go out, let your kid go and run around the playground and scab their knees and sprain their wrists and sprain their ankles. Like, they're going to be okay. They're going to be all right. It's going to build resilience. It's going to get the energy out. It's going to do all these things. But parents have become so insecure in their parenting. And I think it's such a complex issue, but I think one of them is wanting to be seen as a good parent. And the metrics we've got for wanting to be a good parent, one of them is look at how good my boy is. Look at how good my girl is. She's not hurt. And if your son or daughter was to go out and get hurt, there's almost like, did you see Becky? She let her daughter go and do this.
I can't believe she,
oh my God, I can't believe she let them do that. I would never let my little baby do that, right? And it's like, man, like the lack of life skills that he's instilling into your kids is so detrimental to their mental health when they get older. So detrimental.
Yeah, and it's funny, we've been talking like organically, we keep coming back to the same thing, and it's that fear-based mindset that society has, whether it, we've spoken about it in response to the pandemic, we've spoken about it in response to our own social conditioning, we've spoken about it in terms of leadership around not wanting to make mistakes and then taking the accountability and responsibility. We've spoken about it with the influence on the next generation. It's just we are so scared.
Yeah.
So scared.
So scared. It's crazy. It's crazy. And you'd see it too. Again, back with the kids that you work with. And when I was going into schools pre-COVID and I dated a teacher for a while, and the stories she would tell me about parents like leaving their work to go home to get their kids' homework to then drive to the school so that their kid didn't get a 30-minute detention at the end of the day so that they could complete their homework. It's like, man, relax. You're not a bad parent. Your son's not a bad son. Your daughter's not a bad daughter. Like, they just didn't bring their homework in. Let them get punished so that they then remember themselves that, hey, tomorrow I need to bring my homework in. Mum and dad aren't always going to be there to save them.
Yeah, we do this, speaking around the fear side of things, we do this activity in one of our workshops where there's a 16 square grid and it's just a 10-step pathway, and they've got to discover the 10-step pathway, and it can start and sort of finish everything. We've got it written down, and there's a few rules and instructions that they've got to follow, and we set the timer when they're ready, and it's like, okay, let's go, and they got to get through it as a group. So it's like a group activity, but so they'll discover like 4 or 5, and then they'll step into a new one, and I'll go, yes, that's correct, and then they'll literally stand there for 30 seconds, too afraid to step into another square to see if that is right or wrong. And that is just like, it's what is going to happen to you.
Yeah.
All I'm going to say is, no, that's wrong. Next person, come in.
Yeah.
Like, that is all that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things we make them do is retrace their steps. And there's like metaphors everywhere in it. Like, you know, you got to make mistakes to find solutions, you know. Yeah, it's like metaphors for life. But it's like, why are we so hesitant to step out?
Yeah.
Because we could be wrong. It's like, so what? What's the end goal? To find the 10 steps in as quick as time as possible. And then it's just like, it's hilarious. It's not hilarious, but it's like, you see it every time we do it. Or they make a mistake, and instead of retracing the steps, they just want to get the fuck out of there. Because it's like, oh, we don't want that judgment on us. And we're wrong or we're incorrect.
I was watching,
like, and it just feeds that fear and feeds that fear.
I was watching a social experiment, and they have like 3 or 4 people sitting next to each other, and they're all actors except for one. And they have to determine which line is the longest. And there's like 3 lines, and it's obvious which one is the longer line. They don't tell you whether or not you're right or wrong. And they do it like 5 or 6 times with 5 or 6 different images. And so the first guy, they're like, okay, who thinks it's line A? And it's like, no. Who thinks it's line B? And the one guy puts his hand up, and he's like, oh. And then who thinks it's C? And everyone else puts their hands up for C. And he's like, what? Like, it's definitely B. And the next one, same thing happened. He's looking around going, what the hell? By the 3rd and 4th one, he's deliberately being wrong so that he can fit in with everyone else. And that fear of like, I know I'm right, but like, shit, I don't want to be ostracized. I need to be a part of this tribe or this crew. And the fear around like being different or being wrong or
or just being you.
Like being your authentic self. Like, we are being programmed.
One of life's greatest paradoxes is that me versus we thing that we oscillate between. Like, we need to be us, but we don't want to be too much of us to then be labeled different, that then we get ostracized from the group. Because as humans, we want that sense of belonging. We want to be a part of that group. And that's probably where we've got it all wrong at the moment, is that there's a middle ground, but we're just so, let's just conform. Because we're too scared. We're too scared to be ourselves, because we'll get cast aside.
I'd rather be part of the group and wrong than alone and right.
Correct. But what we don't realize is that, you know, be yourself, and this group might not necessarily be your group. That you know what I mean? And there's, you know, there's layers upon layers upon layers on that. But it's like, you know, like you picture it as at a footy club, and you want to be a part of the boys. So you know, you see it with, you know, young kids coming through, and, you know, some of the seniors, you see, especially in local community footy, they all, you know, get on the beers or start doing drugs or whatever, and it's, oh, okay, I want to be part of that, so I have to do that. It's like, no, you don't. You can be a part of that, and you can be mates with them, but you don't have to push it up your nose or have a million beers every Saturday with them. Like, you can still be you in and we're just so shifted at the moment to I need to fit in. I don't want to be different. I don't want to be me. And then we wonder why we all get, you know, why we're depressed. It's because well, you're living a fake life, so to speak.
And that's the thing too, is when we don't live authentically, even when we're accepted, we don't feel like we have a deep and meaningful relationship, because we're like, well, they're only accepting the me that I'm putting out there. They're not actually accepting me. So we actually feel shit doing that anyway. Like the authentic self needs to come forward and be accepted, or it's actually a blessing, as you said, if they don't If they don't accept you, great. Get those people out of your life. Go find people who accept you for who you are, right? And the peer pressure that we're seeing and the lack of confidence in who we are to step up and say no, I think is the piece. I think the piece is you need to instill confidence into your kids. Hey, be you. Be confident. You're amazing. You're great. Good work. Tap them on the back when they do acts of kindness. Make it a massive deal, right? Start to align your values with how you want your kids to show up and go, okay, well, I want them to be honest. Don't lie to your kids, right? Okay, start there, right? Then your kids will grow up to be honest. But one of the things I remember when I was playing footy, right, I was never really a big drinker and I never sculled beers. I was like, would get 3 sips in and I'd be ready to vomit. I remember our seconds won the premiership and we're on the bus and everyone's sculling, rah, rah. And they're like, Rosie, you skull? I'm like, no, I don't scull beers. Come on, drink it or wear it. And I'm like, I'm not going to scull this beer, mate. And sure enough, beer got poured on my head. And for me, it was like, I was just like, well, for me, again, I was so fortunate that I had dad and mum. I knew my values. And it wasn't, when you know your values and you're so confident in your values, it's not even the decision that you have to make. It's just, no, I'm not doing it. No, I'm not doing it. And I remember dad telling me a similar story when Jared Crouch came into the Swans and they were finishing up a preseason camp. And they're all go into one of the boys' cabins or rooms. I can't remember where they were. And they're all drinking. And, you know, I think it was like Paul Kelly and who else was there at the time? Like Andrew Dunkley and someone else. Like these 3 big, like the leaders of the club, right? And they're going to Jared, drink. And he's like, no, I don't drink alcohol. I don't drink. And to this day, dad talks about it. And he says like, it was the greatest, would have been like the most difficult thing for someone to do, an 18-year-old boy amongst his idols. And they're all telling him to do something. And he just stood firm in his values and goes, no, I don't drink. Like there's nothing you can say that's going to get me to drink. I don't drink.
Yeah.
And I think if we can instill confidence into our boys and girls to do those sorts of things and go, hey, you don't need to be accepted by everyone. Be accepted by people that are going to accept you for who you are. And so, you know, I always looked at people that drank when I was in high school as losers. I was like, I actually don't want to fit in with you. I think you're a loser. And that helped me tremendously not fall into peer pressure. Was going, well, I want to play footy. I want to be fresh on a Saturday. I want to play my best, all these sorts of things. I'm not going to drink on Saturday or I'm not going to drink on Friday night if that's what I want to do. And the confidence.
Exact same thing happened to me through the end of my schooling, start of my more elite pathway into footy. And, you know, my friends started, you know, footy was always on a Saturday, but they would start drinking on a Friday night, and I'd go around and I'd just sit around and chat because they were my mates at the time, as you do. You know, then they started going out. They all turned 18 before I did because I was the last birthday in my group of friends. So they were all going out. So they'd go out, I'd go home.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where, you know, they started experimenting with ecstasy and all that sort of stuff. And I was just like, what is like this? No.
Yeah.
Anyway, within, you know, it's a shortish period of time, that sort of next 6 to 9 months, I'm now friends with one of them who was sort of, you know, he's my best mate. And we were more aligned to the, you know, like we can have a couple of drinks, enjoy each other's company. I'm not putting any substances into my body. And that was obviously something that was true to me.
Yeah.
But that was tough. Like you lost, you know, there was a group of probably like 10 to 12 of us. And all of a sudden I'm, you know, 18 years of age, 10 mates have gone. And then you go into sporting culture and, you know what sporting culture is like with, I remember at Subiaco, first rookie day, you know, all the rookies, every time someone said a rookie skull, like you'd have to get up and scull your beer. Yeah. I didn't drink beer. I drink like, you know, like I remember drinking like bourbon and Coke, those Woodstocks in the 440 mils. That's what I used to drink.
Not the vodka cruisers? You weren't a vodka cruiser?
No, oh yeah, couple of cruisers or Bacardi breezes or whatever they were called back in the day. And couldn't do it. Yeah. And then through footy culture, there's obviously a lot of substance use, but that's one thing that like I'm really proud of. There's like every time I've entered a new, because I played at Sydney, played at St Kilda, played at Sandringham, now down at Bomb Beach on the peninsula. No matter where you go, if it's a problem in society, it's going to be a problem in sporting culture. Yeah. And there's substance abuse everywhere, and you're like, to this day, still have never done anything like that. I'll have a drink here and there, but it's like, people go, how do you do it? It's like, well, what do you mean? How do you do it? Like, it's like I literally don't have an answer for it because it's just who I am. I don't do it because I don't want to do it. I don't feel the need to do it. It's deeply, and I reckon it's possibly, I'm 17, 18, and the decisions I made then, set my values around what I'm putting into my body, and then just carried on. It's like, as you said, it's like it's just a no. I'm not doing it. Yeah, I can still come and go out with you guys and get on the piss and have a bit of fun and that sort of stuff, but it's at the stage where like they go off and do whatever they got to do, and I just do me. And it was interesting for me seeing the transition because no 12-year-olds walking around going, I can't wait to snort coke. Like it's like no one's walking around at 12 years old doing that. They're saying like, I would never do drugs. Drugs are bad, right? And again, if you ask an 18-year-old, a drug's good, they're going to go, well, no, they're bad for you, right? So we still know that. But somewhere along the lines, we go from this is not something that I want to do and it's uncool and you're a loser to, oh, my mates are doing it. It's the cool thing to do. Let's go and do it. And, people, the old saying of, marijuana being the gateway drug. I don't see it that way at all. I think the way that I see it is a lack of understanding who you are and who you want to be is the gateway drug. If you're unclear on the kind of person you want to show up day in, day out, and again, I was just lucky or fortunate that I wanted to be an athlete. So for me, what aligned connected to your purpose at an early age.
At an early age, I'm not drinking, I'm not doing drugs, right? Pretty simple. Wasn't really a discussion. Didn't really have to have too much convincing from anyone to not drink. I was just like, I'm an athlete, right? I still actually remember when the Swans won the 2012 grand final and I was 18 then, and I was going through my HSC. Me and a couple of mates caught wind. You guys were down at the Chiefs and went down to the Chief, and most of the boys knew me.
What a giant.
Yeah, right? Went down to the Chief, was having drinking with Goodsy and, a few of the players. And I still remember, this is how naive I was. I still remember leaving the Chief and seeing, and I'm not going to name one of the players, smoking a cigarette. And for me, I was like, what the fuck are you doing? You're an athlete. What are you? And he wasn't very good. He was lucky to be on the team. And I was looking at him going, why are you smoking? Like that can't be good for your career. And I remember just the naivety of me, and my mates were like, what, you don't think they smoke? And I was like, I don't know. Like,
mate, I had that same opinion.
Yeah.
Like I remember we'd get on the piss.
Yeah.
And then off season came around and I was like, oh fuck, half the boys smoke cigarettes. I was like, what?
Yeah.
and then I was so naive, like 20, what was I, 23, I reckon, when they won the flag, and at Mad Monday and stuff like that, there's a few of them that dabble in the other side of things, and I'm sitting there going, like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, does this happen? And then once you sort of see it, it's like the bubbles burst.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh my God, this is everywhere.
Everywhere,
Everywhere. And I was like, what? I was like, has this just happened, or has this always been like this? It's just like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
You know, like everyone turns into chain smokers in the off season. I was like, you play AFL football?
Yeah.
What? I was just like, I don't think I'd ever been more confused.
Yeah.
I was absolutely bewildered is probably the word. I was just like, no.
Yeah.
I was like, no, that doesn't exist in. And then I was just like, oh my, like I look back on it now and go, how stupid was I?
Right. I did yesterday. Yeah. Walking out.
And it's that awareness, like awareness is everything.
Yeah.
If you don't know something, and not like, you know, academically don't know something, but if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what triggers you positively, if you don't understand what triggers you negatively, how can you do anything about making the necessary decisions to live a good life? Like you can't.
Yeah.
It's actually impossible. You'll still make decisions, but they'll be based on 20% of the story or 40% of the story. And it's like, how can you then expect to, like, people that are aware still stuff up? Because it's a never-ending.
Change is difficult.
Yeah.
Well, mate, great chat. I reckon we'll wrap it there. It's almost 2 hours, or an hour and 45 or thereabouts. Mate, where can people get a hold of you if they want to reach out? Do Life Changes offer like private programs or any support services for parents or students or youth? And where can they go to get that?
So anything Life Changer related. If you want to, you know, if you're someone at a school, a teacher that you might want to think about getting the program into your school, info@lifechanger.org.au. Myself personally is Trent at fastlaneprograms.com.au. If there are any people out there that like watching a bit of Call of Duty, Twitch TV /hyphenate_.
-8 the number.
Yes, correct.
Good.
So that's the story behind that is it's my first ever nickname. I got a hyphenated last name, and then my first number at Sydney, and it actually makes a word, which is kind of cool.
How good is that, mate?
Kind of like meant to be, yeah.
Yeah,
but just if they get in touch with you, you can get in touch with me. The old word of mouth.
Yeah.
So mate. Sorry, I was a little bit late to the call today, but that was fun. 2 hours went by.
It was awesome.